feeling a certain type of way at that point in the lockdown. I play it for a couple of different reasons. All right. First off, I really never disagreed with a lot of what Blake Snell was saying. If you were able to tune into a lot of those shows during the shutdown, and Andrew Carlson and I did a bunch of shows together on the weekends and stuff like that when sports were not here. And Andrew, I want to bring you in on this because I just think it's funny to look at in retrospect. It's somewhat comical and as well as, just kind of educational as to how far we've come at this point. Back when Blake Snell was saying this, back in the middle of May, I think it was May 15th or 16th, whatever it ended up being. I just saw the timestamp. I should know. We were in the middle of the Players Union and Major League Baseball owners having a bitter disagreement as to how much revenue should be brought to the players. How much should the players be making at this point? And what are we actually going to look like? Is there going to be fans in the stands? The players know that we made an agreement that in good faith, they would come back to the negotiating table if they knew we weren't going to have fans in the stands. And I'm not going to go back and relitigate all of what we talked about there. But now we're sitting here, Andrew, on October 21st, and 4 or 5 months back. And what are we doing? We're watching the World Series. We're watching Blake Snell pitch in 2020, which after I heard that, I definitely didn't think we were going to see. And we're watching the World Series with fans in the stands. A limited capacity, right? I understand that. But how far we've come. Think about it into retrospect when that audio was sweeping the country. Every talk show was playing it through and saying, how could you dare put yourself in that situation? You're not risking your life and you're not going to be affected by it. You're one of the folks that's too young for it. He was right. He would have had to play isolated and did play isolated. 2, they had to go through all the rigorous testing each and every day. And 3, we ended up going through this with some definite scares, for sure. The Marlins and Cardinal situations were no joke. However, Rob Manfred was on the broadcast before the game started tonight, and he was being interviewed by all the guys. And Tim Kirchin asked him a really valid question, and he was picking through all the different rule changes that they've had. But you get to this point, and what was the baseball like in 2020? I'll say it this way, as normal as I could have ever imagined it would be. There were weird circumstances, Andrew, weird rules, but once the games started getting played and we're here into Game 2 of the World Series, it's still been baseball to me, and it's been entertaining as hell, and we're watching the best players be able to do what they're somewhat born to do with the incredible talent and the incredible work ethic that they've all had to get to this point.
Yeah, it's been baseball. As much as you can say otherwise, it's sad that the fans aren't there. It's sad that we haven't had full stadiums. But look, the fact of the matter is we have 10, 12,000 people watching the World Series, which is 10 or 12,000 more than I thought we'd get to see it this year.
Yep.
And to get to that point, I think is a credit to baseball. You can say what you want about the rule changes and everything else that's gone on, but they've handled this situation about as well as they could after the absolute dumpster fire that was the beginning of the negotiations when we thought we weren't going to have baseball at all earlier this summer.
It was incredible. And you remember this. The players were going at the owners and felt like owners were trying to make players look like the bad guys. And for the first time, really, that I can remember in any type of contract negotiation, however, in collective bargaining negotiation, the public was siding with the players, which I really cannot remember that being the case in any other labor negotiations that I can remember, where for the strange reason, it always appears to me that we as the public side with the billionaire instead of the millionaire, and the millionaire is closer to what, the general population is in this case, trying to make some money off the big dollar company. It kind of changed during this whole thing. However, when Blake Snell said that, not many people thought they would be cheering for number 4 in the Tampa Bay Rays uniform much this season. and I think Maybe I'm wrong, Andrew. I think the majority of the baseball community was cheering for Blake Snell tonight.
I think they've been cheering for him for the last 2 series, if we're being real, Bill.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. You're right about that.
So, look, it's been a wild, wild ride, and I think those comments from Blake Snell before the season all started sort of perfectly put into context just what a crazy, I don't know, 5 or 6 months it's been.
Man, what I would, and the thing is, you can't, like, I couldn't go up there if I was in one of these, media Zoom conferences, which I think are tremendous, by the way. I know a lot of our media brethren don't like it because we don't get to go in the clubhouse and interact with the players off mic and all that kind of stuff. For us on radio, it's amazing. The audio is flawless. However, if I was on one of these Zoom conferences, you wouldn't be able to say, hey, Blake, can I play something for you and get your reaction? You'd have to get him in like the right situation, the right feeling, the right environment. We'd have to be on like some kind of long form podcast, I think, hanging out, and a couple of pops might be in order as well. But that would be one of the best questions that I think I could ever ask in some kind of long form interview of, dude, I agreed with what you were saying here, but when you were on your Twitch channel playing video games in the middle of May and spouted off a quote that made the rounds and was the biggest story in broadcasting, I think, for like a week and a half in sports, did you think you'd be pitching in the World Series the same year? Like, that's the craziest part about it. This game is so it's so cyclical. It just continues to amaze you every single time out. And tonight we were watching Blake Snell no hit the LA Dodgers for 4 innings in Game 2 of the World Series. Now gave up a 2-run shot, and Nick Anderson got out of that inning with 2 on. So the book is now closed on Snell. 4 2/3, 2 hits, 2 runs. They were both earned on a Chris Taylor 2-run shot in the bottom half of the 5th. They're into the 6th. It's 5-2 Rays. We'll keep you posted there as they try to even up the World Series at a game apiece against the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're going to talk to Joe Shasky in San Francisco in about 15 minutes from right now. New morning show that they have there in San Fran, which is one of my new favorites to poke around across the dial and across the country after games get played. But the San Francisco 49ers have been as up and down as a teeter-totter in their fan base. Joe Shasky is going to bring it all together and tell you what the feelings of the faithful for the 49ers is right at this moment. And somebody's trying to get back in. Do you want him on your team? Antonio Brown next on Sports Map All Night. much appreciated. But more importantly, go follow my guy Andrew Carlson on Twitter, because I'm not gonna lie, Andrew. I'm kind of I'm sometimes a bad follow on Twitter, because I go through spells where I simply use the platform as reading material, and then I also get into moments where I just like vehemently disagreeing with people. So then I'm on both wavelengths. I'm the person that everyone despises on Twitter because you like kind of just needling at different things. But then there's also points where I don't tweet. Now you are as consistently entertaining as anybody on that website, twitter.com, that people are starting to really take control of. And I think it's starting to catch on here.
I appreciate the plaudits, Bill, but I'm not sure they're entirely deserved, because we've had a lot of Houston sports going on over the past few months. So
Sure.
It's given me a lot more reason to be active on Twitter. This is probably the most active I've been on Twitter over the past 4 or 5 months since I've been on the platform. And I think that now that we've got less stuff for me to complain about and joke about, the volume may unfortunately slow down a little bit.
So you're saying you're not going to just bombard everyone's timeline with conversations about your Warzone games?
No, I'm not Michael Hernandez, so I will not.
Oh, okay. I like it. How is it going though? You guys get a couple of dubs last night. I knew you were about to fire it up after the show.
No, unfortunately, was not so lucky.
Oh man, I got to try to get into esports talk. Do you think there's ever a time where we do Sports Map all night right here on the Sports Map Radio Network? You're a gamer. Do you think we get to a stage in life where there are broadcasts like what we're doing right now for esports?
I think that we'll have like play-by-play of sorts, but I don't think it'll be on like terrestrial radio. I think it'll be just a stream sort of radio service, which is, I mean, I guess no different than what they've already got, because that's what
for sure,
like Twitch and YouTube and everything else. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if, let's say, 20, 30 years from now, there is a program dedicated solely to esports somewhere on a national platform.
Okay, so you're saying that I might be closer to retired when that happens, so I don't have to worry about it.
I don't think it's happening in the near future for either of us. No.
I appreciate that. Good. Okay, that's good stuff. Then I can sit easy and have some fun with everybody here at 1-800-224-2004 inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, ladies and gentlemen. Need replacement parts and tools for your repair, maintenance, or restoration project? O'Reilly Auto Parts has you covered. Trust the friendly and knowledgeable professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. They know what it takes to get the job done right the first time, which is the important, I stress, first time, not the fifth time, after you've already taken the muffler off and you can't get it back on. In fact, professional technicians have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for years. Stop by, talk to one of the professional parts people today at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every single day. 1-800-224-2004. Earlier on today, Adam Schefter was the first on the story, as seemingly he always is, especially when Ian Rappaport's still suspended for something. But Schefter earlier today had the latest and the newest addition to the Antonio Brown sweepstakes that apparently might be back open, football fans. The report from Schefter reads, Antonio Brown's suspension eligible to end after week 8. Now, first question here, as we kind of do a little, okay, stop at this. Didn't Antonio Brown retire like 4 times, Andrew? Didn't he put out like 3 or 4 times that he's done playing football? But now his suspension's still running through this year. It's convenient time to retire. But I'm not saying, I'm just saying. However, it continues with Adam Schefter. The Seattle Seahawks are now positioned to make a push at signing him. And then he goes, though they're not alone. Seattle's quarterbacks Russell Wilson and Geno Smith are friends with Antonio Brown. Talks about how they've worked out during the offseason. They've remained in touch. The Seahawks had conversations about bringing him in. And I don't know if they did a workout in Seattle or if they had Russell Wilson go and work out with him. However, there was conversations and links from Seattle to Antonio Brown, and it sounded like one of those things of keep us informed and let us know. You know, you just do what you got to do and let us know. Then Pete Carroll was asked about it earlier today, and he said the team is looking into everything that's going on. General manager John Schneider added that he has done a marvelous job of always being tuned into what's happening. This is no exception, Carol said. So we'll see what happens as we go forward, but we're tuned into what's happening there. So as much as he can say, we're definitely interested and we're definitely watching. We're definitely going to pay attention and let everybody know. If he becomes available, we're going to be interested. Are you disappointed that your favorite team's not? Now, Andrew Carlson's a Houston Texans fan. That can be a little bit different. They're sitting at 1-5. I live up in Wisconsin, covered the Green Bay Packers for a while, but a fan of them since I was a kid. A diehard Packer fan, you might say. Season ticket holder, not owner, however. And I don't necessarily know if I want him in my locker room. But I'll tell you this, Andrew, I definitely don't want him on the Seattle Seahawks. Like, it's one of those conundrums for me of I'm very intrigued and I want to see what he can still do because I still think, and people go back and forth with it, and I've had disagreements with others about it. That type of talent that Antonio Brown possesses doesn't just leave in a year and a half. You don't just take a year and a half off of the game and forget how dominant of a football player Antonio Brown was. Has he maybe lost a step or two? Sure, I can believe that. But I still believe that he will be a very, very impactful player if he does return at some point this season, whether it's, catching 5 balls a game for 65, 70 yards and a touch, that I can't be so sold on. But if you put him in a receiving core in a 3 wide receiver set with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Antonio Brown, and Russell Wilson throwing him the football, yeah, I know I don't want any parts of that. That's not fun for me. Not interested in seeing that. Joe Shafsky's going to join us on the other side of this break from 95.7 in San Francisco, in the Bay, in the NFC West. And I can only imagine Joe Shafsky as a 49er fan doesn't want to see that in the NFC West. Or you can be on the complete other side of it, saying, listen, I don't think he's the kind of guy you want in the locker room of a team that's 5-0 and possibly on their way to a Super Bowl. 1-800-224-2004. Let us know what you think. Joe Shafsky's next from the Game in San Fran on Sports Map All Night.
Hi, Garner, CEO of Rocket Mortgage.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Bill Schmidt.
We're back here on Sports Map all night. I just saw a grown man throw his baseball glove onto the field after catching a home run ball with it. That's something else. That's something you only get to see in the World Series when there's 11,000 people in the stands. Game 2 underway, 6-3 Tampa Bay Rays over the LA Dodgers. I know that score has got to make our next guest on the Progressive Guest Hotline feel some kind of way. Progressive making it easy. Bundle your home and car insurance. Get your quote online at progressive.com today. He's 1/3 of the best new morning show in the country. It's on 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. The show is The Morning Roast. He is Joe Shafsky. You follow him on Twitter at ButcherBoy415. Joe, long time no talk, man. I know you got to be enjoying watching these Dodgers go down.
Oh, my God. As a diehard Giants fan, there's only two things in this world I root for when it comes to baseball. My San Francisco Giants and anyone who's playing the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's beat LA all day, and I'm loving it. I'm a little weary Tampa Bay might blow this, but, this Dodger team, 7 times in a row winning the NL West. I'm so sick of them, and I want them to walk away with nothing. I want no championships. Be the Buffalo Bills of baseball.
That's exactly what I've felt, Joe. This would be one of the biggest disappointments of any franchise in any sport if they go out here and don't win again. 7 or 8 straight division titles, 3 out of 4 years going to the World Series, and I'd absolutely love it because I'm in the same boat as you. Beat LA and just finish the job. I can't stand these dudes. But you know what?
It's absolutely absurd.
It's so bad.
I hate Mookie Betts. He's so good. He's so good.
Do you hate Mookie Betts as much as you hated Aaron Donald going into this weekend for your San Francisco 49ers?
Oh, my God. Aaron Donald is one of the greatest players I've ever seen live.
Amazing.
I got a chance when I was younger to obviously see Lawrence Taylor. I've seen Defensive Player of the Year, Sean Merriman. I know people forget how great he was in that one.
Lights
year.
out.
I saw him up close and personal. Obviously saw Charles Haley. Got to see Patrick Willis. I've seen some great players up close and personal. And Aaron Donald was unstoppable. He's a rhinoceros. I've never seen a dude move all over the offensive line and basically take over a game at any point that he wanted to. As the flick of a switch, they somehow found a way to neutralize him. And it was just unbelievable what they did on Sunday night because, to be totally honest, the 49ers season was on the line. That's the only way that they could have framed it. Your season is on the line. Your quarterback got yanked out of the game the week before when you lost by like 40 points to the Miami Dolphins with Ryan Fitzpatrick, a guy who's played in the league for 8,000 years and has been on more teams than Vinny Testaverde. They had no excuses going up against their longtime rival, the guy that they've emulated in Sean McVay, who they were going to sign before they ended up getting Kyle Shanahan. And in many ways, both these teams kind of mirror each other. The Rams with Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo with the 49ers, you don't know what you're going to get week to week because they're kind of
no doubt
quarterbacks.
Now, Joe, I checked in with you guys on the morning roast just after the game on Monday, and people should check it out, 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. Okay, it's got you, Joe Shasky, and Bonte Hill. Now, you and Bonte had a little bit of a disagreement here around Jimmy Garoppolo. What is the confidence level in number 10 out there with the faithful, Joe?
Yeah, so if you watch the game, you say, man, Niners look good. Jimmy looks good. Look at the numbers. And you check the box scores, and you go, the numbers look good. I mean, geez, you almost threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But if you dug a little deeper and you just watched the game thoroughly with football eyes, you notice that most of the passes were traveling 3 and 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It was a lot of play design, a lot of gimmicks. Of the 280 yards, 234 of them came via yards after the catch. So that's telling you guys are out there making plays, and Kyle Shanahan is dialing things up to mitigate the pressure of Aaron Donald, but also to kind of hide his quarterback and lead him to success because his mind and his mental state has been so fragile over the last couple of weeks. Bonte believes that Jimmy Garoppolo is the guy, and I say he's not the guy. There's like 6 or 7 the guys in the league. Just because you're the highest paid player on the team, just because you happen to be the quarterback, does not equate to you being a franchise player. You are not the franchise quarterback. It's Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray. There's a handful of guys. You know the names, okay? Used to be Drew Brees. Jimmy's not in that category, okay? So you got to find ways to make this guy successful if you want to squeeze the lemon on the $27 million you've invested into this guy for 2020. I just think he has a long way to go, and he's got a huge matchup this week with the Hoodie, the guy who drafted him, the guy who groomed and hand-selected him
Amen.
to replace the GOAT, the greatest quarterback of all time. And I'm telling you, tomorrow all we're going to talk about is Belichick, Brady, and Jimmy Garoppolo, the love triangle that was.
And this was supposed to be Jimmy's time, right? This was supposed to be when he was taken out of Eastern Illinois. This was supposed to be his opportunity to take over once Tom finally went somewhere else and Bill Belichick was able to get him out of the way. I want to go back to what you just talked about, guys that are the guy in the league. You mentioned it. There's two of them in that division. And Kyler Murray is as legitimate, Joe, as I've seen out of anybody. I'm trying to draw a comparison to him, but frankly, he's faster than Russell Wilson with the same kind of arm talent as he has. Both of those dudes are playing outstandingly. Jared Goff is doing the same thing that he can do and just orchestrating the offense. You have two quarterbacks that can win across the league in that division and two head coaches that can will and scheme their teams to victories in that division, by far the best division in football. But for the 49ers and the team that you cover and talk about on post games and on the morning show, how do they win that division?
I don't think they can this year. I really don't. If
Okay.
I'm honest, I take a step back and I remove emotion. Just losing Nick Bosa, it's just too devastating for what they want to do. The whole defense was built around pressure last year, and Nick Bosa was outstanding. They traded away DeForest Buckner, not a common household name for most people around the country, a great defensive tackle. And you're just going to take a step back when you draft a rookie in the first round at D tackle, and he's kind of a raw project. So you lose Bosa, you lose Buckner, who was a borderline Pro Bowl player all 3 years with the 49ers during the Shanahan era. Their defense took a step back. And then Richard Sherman, it sounds like he's not going to play. We just found out today he's out till at least week 12. D Ford is probably out for the entire season. This defense is without their top 4 players from last year. Name me a defense around the league and a team that hangs its hat on defense and physicality. Name me a team that can survive that on one side of the ball. It's really difficult. And that's why I'm pointing at Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm saying, look, you got a first-round draft pick wide receiver who looks legit in Brandon Ayuk. Debo Samuel is the real deal. We love him. We call him Vinny Bolden. And George Kittle's the best tight end in the league. And, okay, you want to take Kelsey, that's fine. But we all believe Kittle's in that category, right?
Oh,
He's
no
a great,
doubt.
great player. Jimmy, it's on you. You've got the weapons. I'm watching what Kyler Murray's doing with just DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm saying, this guy's ridiculous. I've seen what Russell Wilson's done the last 6-7 years of his career. They finally gave him weapons, but he was balling out with nothing and no offensive line. So I don't really want to hear the excuses anymore for Jimmy Garoppolo. The strength of the team last year was defense. Now it has to be the offense. They have to carry the team and try to play complementary football and keep the Russell Wilsons, the Kyler Murrays off the field by running the rock and throwing the ball on the short control passing game that Shanahan executes so well.
Oh, well, in their offensive line, Joe Shasky covering the 49ers, talking about them on the morning roast, 95-7 the game in San Francisco. They can run the rock with just about anybody they plug in there. I'm a Raheem Mostert fantasy owner, so I'm nervous as hell at this point as to what that injury looks like moving forward with his ankle injury, but they can funnel anybody seemingly in at that position and gain yards. I don't know if it's the scheme. I don't know if it's the offensive line or if it's a little bit of a combination of both, but you're right. Jimmy's got absolutely everything at his disposal there with a running game that's as good as any.
There's no doubt about it. And look, the Shanahan's, whether it's his father or whether it's Kyle himself, they find running backs. I mean, think about Devontae Freeman a few years ago with Tevin Coleman in Atlanta. Think about what he did in Cleveland with that 1 year in Cleveland. We know what he did in Washington with random Alfred Morris, for crying out loud, running for 1,600 yards. That's what the Shanahan's do. They find running backs out of nowhere. If you're looking for somebody to replace Raheem Mostert, Raheem's one of my favorite players in the league. Like he's a legit home run hitter. The guy is a star. It reminds me of Priest Holmes because he popped on the scene late. He's 28 years old. If he was 22, we'd be talking about him in the same breath as a Christian McCaffrey. That's how ridiculously good of an athlete this guy is. Look out for my man, JaMychal Hasty. This young man at Baylor was so productive and so feisty and so strong. Think Maurice Jones-Drew. Short, small, ball type of a guy. He fits the system. He's got the wiggle. He's got a little juice to the outside, but he's extremely, extremely tough. They need to give this undrafted rookie the bulk of the carries this weekend up in New England, and they need to find a way to win an ugly, ugly game because you know the hoodie's taking away George Kittle. That's what he does. That's why he's the greatest coach of all time.
And you're not going to be able to take away. You mentioned Ayuk and Debo coming back a couple of weeks ago is monstrous for that team. He's one of the scariest guys with the ball in his hands, I think, across the NFC. But what Ayuk has started with, they seem to have a carbon copy of each other with dudes that are absolute monsters with the ball in their hands. Just get it to them on the perimeter and let them go.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Debo Samuel's a beast. He looks for contact. He might be even better on the jet sweep runs than most running backs would be. I mean, he's really a dynamic playmaker when the ball's in his hands. And then, obviously, he's super, super tough over the middle on the slants, which is kind of the staple of the Shanahan offense. The guy, Brandon Ayuk, very physical himself, but he's got more of a smooth look when he runs. Think Torrey Holt. Silky, almost like
Good one.
effortless. This guy's got super long arms that go down to the ground. Looks like a basketball player. I mean, he really does. But they haven't really targeted him or thrown him the ball because Jimmy has been such a mess mentally. So they need to use this guy over the next 5-6 weeks because they've got not just New England, they got Seattle, and they got your team, the Green Bay Packers, coming up. It is a 3-game gauntlet, and that Packer game is on short rest on a Thursday night. Like, they need to click on offense because I said to you, the defense isn't the strength of the team. It's got to be the offense at this point, especially in this division. You got to play keep away from these great quarterbacks.
Well, and I'll tell you this right now. I don't care what the record is. I'm nervous as heck watching the Packers go into San Francisco after they've been absolutely decimated there at Levi's, and especially after the nonsense that I just watched in Tampa Bay this past weekend where the offense couldn't get themselves out of their own way, and the quarterback didn't want to throw the ball into any tight windows after he gets a tip ball interception. But let's look at the entirety of the NFC here. We talked about where Seattle is. I think they're amazing. I think they're the best team in the league, even though their pass rush is legitimately non-existent. The rest of the NFC feels like it's somewhat up for grabs, though, because all of these teams, and you know this working in that NFC West, all of these teams can beat anybody in any given week.
There's no question about it. And I'm just going to be very interested to monitor something like, are we allowing fans into the stadium? Because that has been a huge advantage for teams like the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. Like, when they have a home crowd, they feed off of that. We saw your team, the Green Bay Packers, go in there, and how many different times did Aaron Rodgers, the road team, get them to jump off sides? I've never seen that in the Dome. I mean, it was incredible. So I don't know if there's going to be a legitimate home field advantage this year. I'm looking at teams like the Bears. I'm looking at teams, even like the Buccaneers. Like, are we really 100% sure that the Bucs have figured it out? I'm not necessarily sure. I think they have a great defense. I think their offense is a work in progress. And to your point, like, every team has a flaw in the NFC. I'm much more worried about the AFC. Mahomes, I think Pittsburgh's ridiculous on both sides of the ball right now. Baltimore clearly is still a great team. Tennessee looks unbelievably balanced. If I'm looking at this NFC, I'm saying, how are the Bears where they're at right now? They're completely fraudulent. I mean, they've been down multiple touchdowns late, 3 weeks in a row, and they're finding a way to pull the rabbit out of the hat.
Straight smoke and mirrors.
I don't. Like, again, I'm looking at the Niners situation, and I'm saying to myself, just get into the playoffs. I'm not thinking that you can win the whole thing. Get into the playoffs and just see what happens. I mean, Cam Newton got COVID. No one saw that coming. This is the weirdest thing ever. You just got to roll the dice and get into the playoffs and see what happens.
One final one for you, Joe. You worried about Antonio Brown going to the Seattle Seahawks after week 8?
I'm not going to lie, I am, because Pete Carroll
is
a mad scientist, and the guy loves to take projects. I mean, people forget, before Marshawn Lynch, who's a local guy to this area in the Bay Area from Oakland, before he went there, he was kind of cast off out of Buffalo. People thought that he was a bust. They didn't think it was going to work. He goes up into Seattle, and he just blossomed into a Hall of Fame type player. And I watched him play my Niners and kick the crap out of him for years. I mean, he was awesome. This is what Pete Carroll does. He takes somebody who's flawed mentally or flawed as a player, and he finds a way to maximize their value. So, yes, I'm extremely worried because DK Metcalf looks like Terrell Owens 2.0, Calvin Johnson 2.0, and Tyler Lockett has been a slippery thorn in the 49ers side and the entire NFC for many, many years. No one talks about him. He's a game breaker. And Russ, if you're asking me right now, Russ is the MVP of the league. He's playing the highest level of football you could possibly play. I said it 3 or 4 years ago. He's already better than Steve Young. It's not even up for debate. He will go down as one of the top 11, 12 quarterbacks of all time, even if he doesn't win another Super Bowl. He's that damn good. Think of all the quarterbacks that have been drafted strictly because, hey, look at Russ is surviving. You think Kyler goes number 1 if there's no Russell Wilson?
There's no chance he does. There's no chance he does. There's no way Baker Mayfield does either. Man, we could go for hours. We could go for hours. I got to go and let you go because Kate Scott's got to bring you and Bonte to the table tomorrow, man. I think the show is awesome, dude. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you're into the morning slot, dude. You know how talented I think and know you are. Everybody should go follow him at ButcherBoy415. Thanks, dude. Thanks for joining us, Joe Shafsky.
Hey, definitely. And we got to talk, all right, before the Packers game. We're going to have you come on, hype up your Packers. It's all good. You know I got love, and I'm really proud of what you're doing, man. Keep rocking, and I appreciate every time you have me on, all right, my friend?
You're the man, Joe. Thanks, buddy.
Talk soon.
Joe Shasky joins us once again, guys. The Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. Check it out, especially mornings after games. That they're as fun as anybody around. Quote, buy, and save on home insurance with Progressive's new Home Quote Explorer, only at Progressive.com. Progressive is proud to honor our veterans by donating cars to move your lives forward, especially in times of need. Learn more about their Keys to Progress program and plans for 2020 at keystoprogress.com. We're back right after this at Sports Map All Night.
A buddy that like dated a lot and then
Oh,
like,
man.
this is the girl.
That dude is like a line of coke. I mean, he is just as fired up as
I'm
anybody.
waiting for the day you call me to tell me
He is amazing. Kansas City Chiefs earlier on today. Says he's going to reinvent himself in Kansas City. I'm here for it. I'm here to watch. There's moments in the season where you know something's going to change. You know, at some point this year, the way it's moving right now. I shouldn't say we know, because we don't exactly know what Antonio Brown is going to do. I don't think anybody does. I don't think Antonio Brown knows what he's going to do at this exact moment. However, the reports earlier today say that Antonio Brown is going to be done with his suspension after week 8. That's after next week's NFL slate. So we'll play Sunday, play Monday, move into next week. Tuesday, after next week's games, week 8, he can be signed by anybody and start practicing. His suspension's over. So it brings up an interesting question for me, and I mention the Seattle Seahawks because it's the first one in the report. However, Adam Schefter clearly covers his bases by saying they are not alone being interested. So your favorite team could be, right? What about the Baltimore Ravens? Nephew Marquise Hollywood Brown on the team. We saw videos and pictures of them working out, him and Lamar Jackson. Come on. Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, and then throw Antonio Brown into that offense? Okay. Yeah, I'm down to watch that all year long. Like, there are teams that if you're thinking you can go to the Super Bowl this year, teams as good as any. And then Antonio Brown comes into the equation, I think it changes things. I really do. Some changes are coming in Miami. We talked about it last night, but Ryan Fitzpatrick was heartbroken. Hear this next. This will bring a tear to football fans' eyes. Sports Map all night. Don't go anywhere. Sports Map all night is the program. You're listening on the free Sports Map radio app or a local affiliate across the country. If you are, thanks for hanging out with us. Give us a shout. 1-800-224-2004. Love to get your opinion tonight. You want to see Antonio Brown in a NFL uniform this year? Your favorite team's uniform? Or a Seattle Seahawks uniform? Or a Baltimore Ravens uniform? That one is I think, more intriguing for me. Also because, the Packers are only going to see the Ravens in Super Bowl 55 if either team gets there. However, I sure know that I don't want to see him on the Seattle Seahawks, because if there's any organization that I believe, Joe Shasky of 95.7 The Game pointed this out about 15 minutes ago. If you want to go check out the podcast after the show, go and do so. He said it right there as to why I don't want to see Antonio Brown in a Seattle Seahawks uniform, because that means Pete Carroll is his coach, and Pete Carroll is as good as anybody getting the most out of some of the most talented players in this league who have had some difficulties, right? They found themselves in disagreements with coaches or disagreements with players and some legal trouble that they get misunderstood. However, he's a totally different dude in the motivating tactics of Pete Carroll. I can't get enough of him. I know there's a lot of people around the league, Andrew Carlson, that don't like Pete Carroll. A lot of people, one, do not like his gum chewing, is what I've heard multiple times. I've also heard people just don't like the way that he left USC. And whatever, I can get down with that. However, the guy got fired from 2 prominent jobs in the NFL. I don't know. They didn't ask everybody's permission and make sure that it was the perfect time for him to get fired. Stuff happens. Move on. I think he's an amazing head coach. And right now he's leaning towards HOF. And if you bring in another guy whose talent is HOF, Hall of Fame talent in Antonio Brown, along with Russell Wilson, along with DK Metcalf, sprinkle Tyler Lockett in there in his 4.38 speed. That's a scary good offense. One I'm not interested in seeing. I'm not interested in any parts of that. I would rather just sign him and stash him on whatever squad you could to make sure that he does not play for any other team. However, maybe you think he's a distraction. Maybe you think he's a locker room nightmare. To each his own. I think he's a really, really good football player that if his head's on straight and he's buying in and he's getting along with the quarterback and the quarterback's not doing weekly radio shows calling different guys out, Ben Roethlisberger, then maybe it could work. Speaking of Ben Roethlisberger, we're going to talk to Jerry Dulac in about 25-ish minutes. Talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. He covers the Steelers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, as well as the Pittsburgh Steelers radio network he's affiliated with and a host on. So Jerry knows that story and knows Ben Roethlisberger as well as anybody. Same with Mike Tomlin. He's going to be able to hopefully tell me what I'm not seeing with this Pittsburgh Steelers team, because I didn't include him in my top 5. I don't, because I don't exactly know what their defense looks like now with Devin Bush out. Andrew, I don't know if I want to tell Jerry that, though. I'm debating if I'm going to bring that up in the interview, that I didn't put them in my top 5. Am I a wuss for not including that in the interview when we talk here in about 20-some minutes?
Look, I won't judge you. I just may think less of you.
Okay. Hey, I can deal with that. People have been thinking less of me for a long, long time. Starts with my folks. All right. Somebody does not think very highly of Ryan Fitzpatrick. That would be apparently the Miami Dolphins brass. Yesterday, Andrew, you and I are talking about this on the show as the news breaks that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins coming out of their bye into week number 7. Or after week 7 bye. The timing to me is just so puzzling. It is the bye week. Maybe this has been the plan all along. Alan Papar joined us yesterday covering the Dolphins, and when push comes to shove, there's never a good time to make a move like this. But when your team is winning 3 of their last 4 games, beating a San Francisco 49er team that was in the Super Bowl last year. I don't care who is playing quarterback for them. I don't care who's on the field in that uniform. The team was in the Super Bowl last year, and you drummed them in their home stadium. Embarrassed them. Had guys like Joe Shasky talking about the quarterback needs to be changed. So the Dolphins are in a seemingly uphill swing or uphill climb. They're on the upswing. I think I finally used the terminology right. They're ascending. They're a team that is getting better, an organization that's getting better. I think they got the right guy at the helm in Brian Flores. And they have Ryan Fitzpatrick as the starter. And then yesterday, boom, he's benched out of nowhere. It took everybody else by surprise. And when you hear Ryan Fitzpatrick tell the story in his own words, seems like Ryan Fitzpatrick was as stunned as anybody that he's no longer the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins.
And my heart just hurt all day. Like it was heartbreaking for me. And Flo kind of said what he said and said what he said to you guys as well. And that's the decision and the direction that the organization is going in. And obviously, we've talked in the past, me and you guys, about, how I'm the placeholder and this eventually was going to happen no matter, it was just a matter of kind of when, not if. And it's still just, it broke my heart yesterday. And, it's a tough thing for me to hear and to now have to deal with, but I'm going to do my best with it.
Now, listen to how Ryan Fitzpatrick describes the position that he is in now as the backup quarterback for Tua on a team that he was the starter of just 2 days ago, winning, beating up and shutting out another team in the National Football League. I understand it's the Jets, but they're a National Football League team. Doing it at home, cheering and egging on the fans to keep pumping up the noise as they're cheering on Tua, who runs out to make his NFL debut, and that's the last moment that Ryan Fitzpatrick was the starter of the Miami Dolphins. Listen to how Ryan Fitzpatrick describes his situation now with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked, this profession is interesting in that, I basically got fired yesterday, and then my day of work today consisted of me in Zoom meetings listening to the guy that fired me, and then locked in a spaced out room with my replacement for 4 hours today. So there aren't a whole lot of jobs that are like that, but I know how difficult it is to play the quarterback position. I know that room is so important to the guy that's playing in terms of everybody having your back and pulling in the same direction. So, today's the day to digest a little bit, and we'll get away for the bye a little bit. But, once this thing starts up again, I've got to do my best for Tua to help him out.
That's Ryan Fitzpatrick earlier today, one day after being benched, or as he says, fired, which is pretty true, as the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. I wouldn't have thought about it, Andrew, but he's pretty much right. He did. He got fired and then had to go and help the guy that's taking over his job. It's like you and I being in here, and they let you know in the morning, right when you get into the studio there in Houston, that, hey man, you're no longer going to be producing the diehards and being a part of Sports Map all night. We got our guy coming in here, Johnny, and he's going to take over. But could you make sure to show John, how the bumps go in and out and where all the cart numbers are and where all the music's at? It's laughable to me, but it's true. Do I feel bad for him? Yeah. As a person, I do. He understands. I understand. We all do. The situation's different. It's apples to oranges to someone's finance job, but it's someone's livelihood, and it's something that you put this much passion into. I couldn't help but feel really, really bad for Ryan Fitzpatrick today when I was listening to that. I don't know where you fell in on it, Andrew, but we read a lot yesterday, talked about it, and he felt like a victim of a weird situation. I still can't believe in my heart of hearts that this was a decision solely made by Brian Flores for this team to win football games. To me, feels like it was made somewhat over Brian Flores' head.
Yeah, I'm still not buying that, but for Fitz, I do feel bad for him, only in the sense that he probably didn't expect it to happen this soon.
Right.
I understand that, he's got the Dolphins playing well, a lot better than people expected, at least record-wise. But come on, that this was happening at some point this season. So if the Band-Aid was ripped off a little bit sooner than you potentially expected, I don't know if I'm going to be heartbroken for the guy over that. I know it sucks, but the reality is you're still an NFL quarterback. And
Sure.
chances are, if there's a team elsewhere in the league that's in desperate need of a starter, you might be headed there pretty soon.
Well, and that's the atmosphere of it now, and where the environment goes from here. Where does he go? Because this could be a point where Miami said, listen, we have an opportunity to trade this guy when none of us thought that was a realistic possibility. We could actually get another, a fourth or a fifth round draft pick possibly for him. Who knows? You're going to tell me Dallas doesn't want Ryan Fitzpatrick being the starting quarterback there? At this point, he's got to be better than the two picks that we saw out of Andy Dalton. Now, maybe he's not, but it would be, it's an interesting conundrum for teams to be throwing around all over the place. Another guy gets hurt. Tell me another starting quarterback gets hurt. You're not looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick as a legitimate option to bring you to a playoff game, help you finish out the season that you already are on. A Carson Wentz situation from 2017. If he's backing up a guy that has his team in the playoffs and has his team playing that good in a position to, win 2 games and you find yourself in a Super Bowl, there'd be a lot worse guys that you can have than Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's a job that you have and you hold to be replaced. You do. It's the same thing as being a head coach in the league. You are a head coach. You get that job. You're hired to be fired. Just bad timing and bad situations. And it just feels like a bad move for me. I get the Miami Dolphins are winning no Super Bowls this year. Tua playing this year, though, I don't know that puts you any closer to a Super Bowl. We're closer to an outcome being decided in Game 2 of the World Series. Cody Bellinger at the dish as the tying run. It's 6-4. We'll fill you in next at Sports Map All Night. Keep it right here. into the sport and have more eyeballs on him. He wins the interim title there. Did you see earlier today they were doing, I don't know if it was pictures, cameos, the final weigh-in, but they had each guy pose, and Khabib had his title on, and they made Gaethje take pictures with the interim title, and then he said, I don't want this thing. I don't want this thing. Give it away. And when he got the interim title against Ferguson, he immediately took the belt off and said, I'll wait for the real one. That's the part of it that I'm intrigued by. I am with you, though, and maybe this is just because of my affinity for professional wrestling. I love the storylines of the fights almost as much as the actual brutality and definition of the fights. Like, I like the technical aspect of it, don't get me wrong. But once you add in some drama and some good old storylines for a reason to dislike somebody, that is going to make me more interested in the fight.
100%. It's part of why we all love sports so much. We can say whatever we
Yeah.
want about the action on the field, but there's a reason that narratives and storylines are still arguably the most important thing about sports. It's because that's what truly draws in the entire audience, is when you have the captivating narrative to
No
go
doubt.
along with great performance in the ring, on the field, wherever it is.
Man, but you're right, dude. Khabib is I've been going through and trying to watch different fights that he's had. He gets to the ground and it's just raps. I mean, the video of him wrestling a bear whenever he was like 6 or 7 years old is somewhat, kind of sad to me. And I'm like, wow, this is a scary, scary situation. I'm just really glad I was never in. But you watch the guy and he takes that type of aggression every single time he's on the mat with somebody. And if Gaethje goes down to the floor with him, it feels like it's wraps, as it's pretty much been for all other 28 guys that Khabib's gone up against, 28-0. But if they stand up and Gaethje's able to try to knock him down with some of his leg strikes and then capitalize with it with his big power on the right hand, it could be interesting. I'm not sold the fact that Gaethje can win, but I am going to be watching. I'm as excited as I've been for any of it. I'll say you this one, Andrew, going to be much more entertaining than Stipe Cormier was in their third opportunity, which felt like a money grab for me.
Oh, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope
Man.
so. That one wasn't good. As long as I don't see the little, I'm blanking on which fight it was. As long as I don't see the little tippy-tappy toe smashing thing that I saw for like 3 or 4
Oh,
rounds.
yeah. Usman, right?
Yeah, as long as I don't see that again, I'll be relatively happy with my purchase.
That was the lamest fight I think I've seen. However, I'll say this. Tremendous tactic. I mean, way to find a way around the rules. I'm just gonna pin you up against the cage. I'm just gonna stomp on your feet. That was Usman Masvidal, correct?
Yes, that's what it was.
Yes. Because you see Masvidal training with Kimbo Slice, and I'm a very new UFC fan. I just discovered the Kimbo Slice YouTube videos like 2 weeks ago, when he was just walking up to someone's backyard and boxing somebody randomly. If you train with that guy, that's why people were excited to see Masvidal in that fight. Then a guy just goes and stomps on his toes the whole time. And I'm like, what? Paid $70 for this? But I think also Whitaker in the undercard, or the co-main event, whichever you want to say, the second fight in the pay-per-view. Walt Harris is a lot of fun to watch. So there's more than just the main event that I'm looking forward to on this card. But this is one that we're not getting paid to say this. This is one that you'll actually get your money's worth on the 6 fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the reality is, whether you like Khabib or not, he is probably the most dominant fighter in UFC history, either him or John Jones, and you have to respect that.
Sure could be.
So when you're getting to watch that, just know that you're getting to watch greatness, and whatever else comes along with it, whether it be a dominating performance or maybe the upset that nobody saw coming, you're going to get your money's worth from it.
Is there any way we see John Jones fight again?
Ooh, maybe at heavyweight. I don't know about light heavyweight, though.
I hope we get to, because I can't get enough of seeing John Jones. He is as entertaining as anybody I've ever watched across any sport. Athletic-wise, he's just a freak. Everything that's gone on in his life to still dominate that sport. Hand over the belt, I'll go win it. All right, I'll lose it again. All right, I'll go win it again. I mean, it's just incredible to watch. Game 2 of the World Series is into the 9th inning. Randy Arozarena is at the dish with a man on. And the Rays have a 2-run run lead. It's 6-4. With the Dodgers just having Cody Bellinger up at the plate, the part of the order that Diego Castillo wants to face is coming up here for the Dodgers. It's setting up pretty well for the Rays to actually even this bad boy up at 1 game apiece. This is it's coming down to the wire here, but if you're the Rays, this was really the best opportunity you could have seen to steal a game. And maybe not steal a game. Maybe that's being a little disrespectful. 40-20 in the regular season. They deserve to be here. And they're 3 outs away from evening up the series. But you're going to tell me an insurance run wouldn't help? Definitely would. Jerry Dulac is next. Talks some Pittsburgh Steelers. Covers them for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Host on the Steelers Radio Network. Is on SportsMap all night next. Don't touch that dial. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a series tied at 1. They always say it's not a series until the road team wins a game. Well, there's no technical travel. However, the Rays were the road team today. And from everything I've seen here at the World Series down in Arlington, Texas, it appears like it's a Dodger home game. The majority of every jersey and shirt that I'm seeing there at Globe Life appears to be Dodger blue, but the Rays get a win tonight, I should say, in a 3-hour and 40-minute game, 6-4. Kevin Cash does it a different way than I do, but Diego Castillo ends up getting the final out for the Rays as the decision to wait forced Jock Peterson out of the game, get a pinch hitter, and brought in Austin Barnes to pinch hit. I mean, Austin Barnes is a nice player, but just not the same kind of hitter that Peterson is, to avoid the righty-lefty matchup. And Castillo comes in, throws 3 pitches, all 3 strikes, gets a strikeout, and gets game 1 for the Tampa Bay Rays over the LA Dodgers. This hour of the program, guys, is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. When you want the ability to adjust your loan options in real time, Rocket can. We're going to talk about Thursday Night Football on the other side here into hour number 3, as it's an NFC East game. All right. Hold your jokes. But the Eagles can still be a special team this year. They can be. But it starts tomorrow night. Listen to Doug Peterson and let me know if you think that his Philadelphia Eagles are on the road to recovery. Jake Asman in the next hour as well. Keep it right here at Sports Map All Night. YouTube, Bill Schmid Radio, Sports Map all night. Either one, you can find us there. I'm on Twitter at Bill Schmid Radio. The live stream also goes out there. He is at Carlson Radio, and you find the podcasts as well as all the information on Sports Map Radio at Sports Map Radio. Speaking of Sports Map Radio and Sports Map Radio hosts, got Jake Asman is going to stop by in about 35-ish minutes or so from right now. Really appreciate him staying up late with us tonight. You can hear him each and every day, 9 to 11 Eastern. That's 8 to 10 Central, if you were wondering. It's also 6 to 8 on the West Coast. So either way you want to slice it, however you want to dice it, Jake Asman's on this station each and every weekday right here on Sports Map Radio. And he had a conversation with one of his longtime idols, and actually one of his father's idols, Joe Willie Namath, today. Go check out that podcast right now today, because it is a really, really fun conversation. If you just enjoy the fandom of sports and in its purest sense, the love and passion that you find for these teams, you'll hear that with Jake and Joe Willie earlier on today on the station. We're going to talk to Jake. Appreciate him coming by here in about a half hour from right now. About after 40 after the hours when you'll hear Jake Asman with me right here on Sports Map all night. But guys, you want to talk about longtime fandom? One of the best gifts to get the sports fan in your life this year is an illuminated 3-dimensional replica of their favorite stadium, and it's at homefields.com. You'll see what I mean when you check it out. Homefields.com, more than 165 stadiums, football, baseball, hockey, college football, college basketball, stadiums that aren't even in commission anymore. They have for the sports fan in your life. They make great holiday gifts. So make sure your wife and significant other and your kids know that you want a gift from homefields.com. They're amazing replicas. Don't take my word for it. Go check it out yourself. Homefields.com. Thursday Night Football involves the Philadelphia Eagles tomorrow. Can Philly still be special? Doug Peterson tells you next, and we're going to hear from the winners, the Tampa Bay Rays. Straight ahead, Sports Map all night. Well, it's a series in the World Series. Going to hear from the Tampa Bay Rays, Blake Snell, a bit later on in the program as they even up this best of 7 fall classic in Arlington, Texas. 1 game apiece. But now, in theory, the Rays have stolen home field advantage as they win game number 2. They will be the home team when the series resumes on a Friday night with Charlie Morton on the bump for the Rays. This is going to be an hopefully entertaining series that continues on longer than at least I anticipated. I thought it was going to be a gentleman's. I thought Tampa would get one, and tonight felt like the one to get if you are the Tampa Bay Rays. However, momentum and baseball is a funny game. Couple of hops go your way. Like one tonight on the second of Brandon Lowe's homers, it bounces off the top of the wall and goes over. Seen that many a different time. Bad spin on the ball. It comes back in. It's 6 inches lower. It's a base off the top of the wall. Maybe they don't score those 2 insurance runs at that point, and it's a completely different game. Baseball takes a ton of luck, more than any other game that we watch, and it's now a 5-game series to determine the world champion of this de facto strange, whatever you want to call it, tournament, 60-game regular season, MLB season of 2020. So we'll be talking a lot more about it tomorrow night on the program as well, but we are going to hear from Blake Snell coming up here in about 15 minutes. After he no-hit the Dodgers for the first 4 innings, I can't wait to hear what the tone was in that locker room or in that dugout at the moment in time that he was performing that well in the biggest moment of his career. A guy that in the beginning of parts of the year, he was one of the main question marks if he would be playing in the season. Same dude that questioned and said, man, I'm not taking half of anything. So if we're only making half of what we're making, that's not really in the cards for me. And then you want me to take another pay cut? Can't believe when he was on that Twitch stream back in May that he would think that he was pitching in Game 2 of the World Series here in 2020. 1-800-224-2004 if you want to join the conversation. Been talking a lot about Antonio Brown all night. Would you want Antonio Brown on your team in the National Football League, or do you just want to make sure he doesn't play for anybody else? Because I sure don't want to see him in a Seattle Seahawks uniform as a Green Bay Packers supporter. No chance. Not interested. What about if I'm a San Francisco 49er fan? Nope. Don't want to see that. I don't want to see Russell Wilson get another toy, let alone a guy that's got Hall of Fame credentials and talent. I don't know what he's still got at this moment because we haven't seen him in a game since September of last year. And we've all seen what's been transpiring with him on Instagram and whatever his rap career is. Album is awful. I don't know if anybody... Andrew, have you checked out Antonio Brown's rap album? It is
got a whole lot of money.
It is not great. I mean, it's better than I won't even say that it's better than me. You've heard me in the breaks. You've heard my musical prowess. You know what I can do.
He's got higher production value. That's about all he's got going for him.
Well, that's true. That's true. You know, if we had the mixers in here that we really need, I think you and I could put together because people don't understand that Andrew Carlson can sing. I didn't even realize it until like a week and a half ago. You held out your talent on me.
Yeah,
it's unreal. But hey, whatever. I don't know what he's up to. I don't know what kind of shape he's in. All I can go off of is what I've seen him do on a football field with pads on at the wide receiver position, and I watched him do it better than just about anybody else for the better part of the last decade. So if you're going to tell me that he's available, I'm interested. I don't care what it brings. I don't care if I got a guy at the quarterback spot that I know it doesn't even have to mesh with his personality. He doesn't have to be best friends with him. It's got to respect. It's got to be a respect factor. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm definitely intrigued as to what he can do. I am also excited for Thursday Night Football tomorrow night, which, okay, don't laugh. It's a 1-4-1 team against a 1-5 group. However, it's the NFC East. So the Eagles win tomorrow night against the New York Football Giants. And if my math is correct, they're in first place. They'll have a 2-win record, right? And they'll be going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who are 2-4. But they will be ready and primed with one more Dallas Cowboy loss as a first-place team. They currently, technically, a game and a half back, if you want to say it, with their tie earlier on this year to the Cincinnati Bengals. But a group that has had so much confusion and frustration for the beginning parts of their season. Listen to the tone of Doug Peterson and tell me that this sounds like a coach whose team is a game out of first place.
Did you see the game? I mean, we dropped a big third down, turnover. We dropped a touchdown. We missed a field goal. I mean, it's self-inflicted wounds. It's things that I've been talking to our team all week about, right? And when you're playing good football teams like the Ravens are, you can't make those mistakes. You can't do it. And with the amount of injuries that we do have, and look, I'm going to stand here and tell you that we're not going to make excuses. The guys in the locker room aren't going to make excuses. And so, that's what happened. I mean, there's enough things in this game too to point at from decisions I made to, execution on the field again, and we didn't get the job done.
That was Doug Peterson immediately after the Baltimore Ravens beat his Philadelphia Eagles at home 30-28. Now, in fairness, Baltimore Ravens are really, really good. And Doug Peterson's team was a 2-point conversion away from tying them within 2 minutes to go in the game. It's a pretty wild spot to be in. And to then have this type of, a little bit negative energy. However, Deshaun Jackson is expected to be able to go tomorrow night. Seems like Lane Johnson will be able to go tonight. They're all-pro right tackle. So for the Eagles, things do feel like they're trending in a positive direction. But Doug Peterson also knows that 1-4-1 is a record that breeds little optimism.
As a head coach, I can stand here and I'm proud of those guys in the locker room. And I know they're going to get beat down this week, and that's your job. But my job is to encourage them and say, hey, and I get it. There are no moral victories in the NFL. There's no moral victories at all. And we're all graded on wins and losses. But for this team to hang together on the sideline, to not point fingers, to battle, to be in this position with all the mistakes that were made in the first half, really offensively, and then we missed the kick, the field goal at the end of the half. I mean, those are the difference in games. And those are things that we're going to learn from and we're going to get better from.
Now, the punchline of all this is people believe he's contradicting himself. To me, it's just a guy that's explaining what you need to look at on the positive ends of an NFL team. Yeah, we're not going to make excuses, but you do have to critically and analyze why you lose games. And sometimes that does feel like making excuses. No, it's just pointing out exactly what happened. Know that you're that close. You're that a couple of plays away. And all games in the National Football League come down to about 5, 6, 7 plays. That's really it. I mean, they come down to a handful of plays that decide the game, and everything else is going to be a part of it and just kind of breed through part of the story. Now, Carson Wentz, however, has taken so much criticism all year long. And for one, Carson Wentz, he believes that everything's still right in front of him. Everything's wide open.
Yeah, I mean, we know where the division's at. We know it's wide open still. And we know we didn't start and we don't have the record that we were hoping for or, counting on, but we know that this is a divisional game. And divisional games always have a little bit more on the line, not just because there's a little extra rivalry there, but because we know it's at stake and we know the division is up for grabs for everybody. So we know what's riding on this one, and we're excited for it.
That's tomorrow night. It is the Giants against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Giants also coming off their first win of the year, beating the Washington football team 20-19. So both of these teams had games that came down to a final 2-point conversion. The Eagles were unable to convert. The Giants just were able to force Kyle Allen to not even throw the football, really, when he had a chance to. He also had a chance to tuck it under and run. However, Giants feeling good, winning their first game of the year. They go to Lincoln Financial tomorrow night, and we're going to talk about it right here on Sports Map All Night tomorrow with you while you watch the game, and right after we'll hear from the winners on Sports Map All Night, as we do each and every night with the biggest games that you are watching each and every night. We get to watch them with you and then react after and during a little bit right here on Sports Map Radio. You can join us 1-800-224-2004. Talk to my guy Jake Asman, 9 to 11 right here on Sports Map Radio in the morning. Stays up late with us. He's going to hang out with us in about 15 minutes from right now. Talk about his New York Jets and his conversation earlier today with Joe Namath, the Hall of Famer, joined the Jake Asman Show. Jake Asman joins Sports Map All Night in about 15 minutes from right now. Keep it here. It's Sports Map All Night on the all-new Sports Map Radio Network.
Here's Bill Schmidt.
Man, we learn things on this show. Learn a lot on Sports Map All Night. We get to learn things about our listeners, 1-800-224-2004, or the folks that are commenting away on YouTube each and every night. Facebook and Twitter at Bill Schmidt Radio is how you find the live stream along with YouTube each and every night, or you can find us on the free radio Sports Map Radio app. Sports Map Radio app. It is free, ladies and gentlemen. Free. And I stress free because there's people and companies in our industry that charge you extra for, one, utilizing mobile listening, right? Or using an app, listening to podcasts. We don't do any of that nonsense because it should be for you, the consumer. That's why we do this. That's why we're up all night with you on Sports Map Radio, so we can talk sports and give you a couple of, this is how I've always viewed what sports radio can be and what it should be. We want to give you one thing that you can tell your buddies that will impress them on your sports knowledge, and one thing that you can take home and tell the family and get a giggle. So that's how I've always looked at our industry, and hopefully you're getting that each and every night with us here on Sports Map Radio. Game number 2 of the World Series goes to the Tampa Bay Rays. Blake Snell was no-hitting the LA Dodgers through the first 4 innings of the game. Then we brought it up on the show, obviously. Then that went goodbye. But for Blake Snell, we played it a little bit earlier on in the show. This man was in the midst of a bit of a turmoil that he found himself in. Blake Snell was the topic of conversation across pretty much every national talk show when he voiced his displeasure and his frustration with the idea that players should take another pay cut when coming back and returning to the 2020 season. He said on his Twitch channel, for all you that don't know, that is a streaming service that you use a lot of times for video game players, and you can broadcast you playing video games on Twitch. So he's doing that with a bunch of his fans in May, and essentially said he was planning on opting out of the season. Well, fast forward 5-6 months, and now he's starting game 2 of the World Series with the Tampa Bay Rays, and Blake Snell no-hits the Dodgers through the first 4 innings, though, finds himself in some trouble in the 5th, doesn't get out of it, surrenders 2 runs, leaves with 2 men on. What made you so good, though, tonight through those first 4 innings, Blake Snell, before we ask you what changed in the 5th?
I would say it was the mix. I just, I attacked the zone really well, mixed it really well, and just did a good job keeping them off balance. I mean, we're a pretty selective team with a couple guys that are aggressive, so I had a pretty good game plan on what I needed to do to, have success against these guys. Today went my way, but I'll see them again, and I'll have to be better.
Snell is right. This Dodger team is as selective as any in the league. They swing and miss less than most teams in the league at all. Their take rate is, I think, top 5 in the league. Max Muncy is one of the guys that does it better than any. One of the main reasons why Tyler Glasnow walked 6 dudes last night, and Blake Snell walked 3. However, part of that came in that 5th inning where he gives up a 2-run shot to Chris Taylor, can't get out of the inning. What changed on your control or your demeanor game plan, Blake Snell, in that 5th inning?
I don't think anything really changed. I thought I threw strikes, didn't get the calls, and then it favored them in the bats, and they capitalized on it. So I think that's really what it was. I ended up getting behind, and then that's what's going to happen with a good team.
Then you get behind in a game like that, bad things are going to happen to you. However, Blake Snell and his team now is able to reset, take the off day, and hand the ball to one of the better postseason pitchers in the last 5, 6, 7 years in Charlie Morton Friday night in Game 3 as they become the home team in this best-of-7 series. That's now a best-of-5 as it's even at 1 apiece. But for Snell, bringing this thing full circle, this guy was in the midst of a lot of disputes, and people were not happy with the way that he broached the conversation on social media or on Twitch, whatever it ended up being. I had no problem with the way that Blake Snell handled himself and stated his displeasure with the idea that players had to take a pay cut. All of this aside, it's Game 2 of the World Series. You're starting. There's finally fans in the stands, and Blake Snell's parents got to be there tonight while he started Game 2 of the World Series. What did that mean to you, Blake?
I mean, that's everything, because they've been with me the whole way since Little League. Before that, I mean, this is cool for them to watch this at the, this is the biggest stage, and for them to be here, it means the world to me.
That is just one of the coolest parts of this profession, this job, and this industry in sports is what he just said there. They've been with me since Little League. Countless parents are with, their kids each and every game, each and every day, each and every practice. And most people just dream of being at this point. Put yourself in that position, performing in the biggest game of your life, something that you've always dreamed of doing. His parents probably dreamed of it too. Because whether or not there's always some that will give a bad rap of living vicariously through or whatever. I've never understood that vantage point of it. Whether or not you're enjoying more of your child's success, you're living it with them. You want your kids to be that kind of successful and pursue their dreams and ultimately succeed in their dreams and get to this point. I can't even imagine what was going through his parents' mind tonight watching their son, and all of those moments like that kind of just flash before your eyes. I can imagine that spotlight, that game, that moment, that kind of intensity, that kind of pressure down 0-1. It's incredible. It really is. So now, Blake Snell, it is a 5-game series. You think the Rays made a little bit of a statement to the LA Dodgers and the rest of the country tonight?
Just that, we're good and we're here to play. It's not going to be an easy World Series. And, we got a really good team here we got chemistry and we can play really well together. So they're going to have to bring it every night, just like we're going to have to. That's
the best way to put it. Not going to lay down. And I think a lot of people may have leaned that way through watching how dominant the Dodgers were in game 1, 8-3. Now instead, it is back to a 5-game series, even at 1 game apiece. In large part to this man, Brandon Lowe hit 2 bombs tonight, including a 2-run shot in the 5th that gave, at the time, a 5-1 lead to the Tampa Bay Rays. But Brandon Lowe has been struggling most of the postseason. Wasn't even hitting over 100. So how did it feel to knock 2 out tonight?
Yeah, those felt really good. It felt great to get back and contribute to the team. They've been doing so well for the past month. It felt really good to get back and actually start doing stuff again.
That's got to just be the most nauseating and frustrating moment when you just can't figure it out at the plate and you're watching your teammates just drag and carry it through, and then to finally break and get off the schneid for, a guy that a couple of years ago was an all-star in Brandon Lowe. It's not like he's some slouch. He's hitting right in the middle of that lineup for a reason. This postseason, before today, he was 6 for 56 with 19 strikeouts and didn't have one multi-hit game. Not one. And then knocks 2 out of the yard tonight. I'm telling you, baseball's a funny game, man. And his second one put the Rays up for good at 5-1. It ends at 6-4. So what's the mentality now? And what was it coming into a game after last night watching that Dodger lineup do what that Dodger lineup has done to pretty much everybody, and Clayton Kershaw being as good as he had been? Brandon Lowe talks about it after the game tonight.
Flush yesterday. Yesterday happened. It's behind us. We can't do anything about that. Show up to the park, understand who's on the mound, what that guy's got, and what they're going to attack you with, find a plan and execute it. And, we were able to do that tonight.
Well, they get a good situation tomorrow night. Charlie Morton, 3-0 in this postseason, an ERA of .57, takes the ball. And Andrew Carlson, you've seen Charlie Morton at his best in the postseason with the Astros. He was pretty much that the other night against your Astros.
When you need a win in the postseason, there's not many other pitchers you'd rather turn to right now.
And he's going up against a guy that I think is going to be that dude for the next decade, and that's Walker Buehler. 1-0, 1.89 ERA. That comes up on Friday night. Woo! I can't wait. Let's hang out with Jake Asman, the host of the Jake Asman Show. 9 to 11 Eastern is next right here on Sportsman Radio.